Nervousness in speaking in front of a large crowd.
Hmm. One is be really clear of what you're going to say. So know your objective. Um, Two is try not to think about the other people. Um, well, I should so first one is your objective. What's the purpose of the talk? Why are you speaking? Two is are you clear of what the audience is going to get out of it? Is what you're going to be talking about worth their time or not? Have you prepared enough to make sure that you're talking, you're giving them something to benefit from? And then three, understand that you up there, it's not so much about them, it's about you. So just focus on yourself and don't try and care too much how other people are looking at you. If you've done the first two steps, you're clear on your objective and you're clear on providing value to your audience, you don't have to worry about yourself. And so there you can be free and not kind of second guessing and being nervous about how you're coming across.
Dealing with loneliness.
If you're feeling lonely, I think the first thing you do is you call a friend or a family member, someone that you can always feel that you can speak to, or even someone that you haven't spoken to for a while. So that's the first thing to do, right? Call someone that you know. If you don't have access to someone right now, like let's say the time difference, or maybe there's just not someone that you feel comfortable enough to talk, then it's get out, go for a walk, um, and just kind of enjoy the time by yourself. And then the third one is to actually join a community. And especially if it's sports related, it's just really easy to sort of like join a sport, especially if you can play that sport already. It's just really easy to join a game. And during the game, you're going to get to know your teammates. You want to do a team sport. So for me, it will obviously be football. But I've recently picked up like pickleball, for example, which is a very accessible sport. Um, and when you're not playing, there's opportunity to talk to other people. And depending on the time of day, sometimes there's an opportunity to go out afterwards. So yeah, do a sport and then have that as your social interaction for the day.
Dealing with uncertainty about the future.
I mean, one is to, it depends, like the future's so big, right? So I think the first thing you need to do is kind of like break it down. What in particular are you worried about? Because the future's going to happen whether you are about it or not. And so is that there's always a core component, right? Is it about your career? Is it about the future relationship? Is it your health? So identify what exactly is the issue that you're worried about. And then two is strategize from there, right? Like if the issue is on your health, like am I going to be fit? Am I going to still be able to like run or like lift my kid up when I'm 50 years old? Well, if that's what the worry is, and now it's time to strategize and basically prepare to sort of like prepare your countermeasures against that. So, for example, you go to the gym, you work out. Um, and then the first strategy to deal with uncertainty in the future is just kind of be aware that like there's only so much in your locus of control. There's only so much that you can control in your life. So again, if you've identified what it is, you've been able to strategize what you can do, the third step is really just to be okay with it and calm and look, I can do this is all I can do, and that's what I'm gonna do. There's nothing more I can do than that. And just to be fine with that as a conclusion.
Dealing with toxic individuals.
The first one is to just not socialize with them. Just get out of there. If you're meeting someone and they make you feel crap every time you see them, then just stop meeting them. It's very easy. Like we're blessed with like this biological feedback. If we're in a situation which we don't like, we know we will not feel good. So from then, don't put yourself in that situation again. If it's in a place where you can't remove yourself, for example, it's a colleague, um, then it's just being aware and trying to find strategies to kind of deal with a toxic colleague or even a toxic family member. I mean, it depends who it is, right? So I think the easiest thing is if you can stay away from that person, stay away from that person. If you can't stay away from that person, then figure out strategies to navigate around them. So either physically, so that you're not really in the same vicinity of them, And then the third one would be about really have effective communication strategies. So, for example, know how to talk to that person without giving too much of yourself away. So, oversharing in that way, or giving them any kind of reason to kind of take advantage of you. Um, and just be polite, don't you have to kind of kill them with kindness is a phrase that really works with almost any situation where you're dealing with a conflict. So that would be the third step.
Dealing with rejection.
So dealing with rejection, I think the first thing is to kind of understand what the reason is, right? And um, if you can get feedback and it's clear feedback, then that's great. So I'm thinking in terms of like whether it's a date or whether it's a job. Have you been rejected in either of those scenarios? I think one is understand what went wrong. Uh, the second thing is to understand if there was anything that you could have done about it. If it's not, if there was nothing you could have done, then you have to let it go. And then the first step dealing with rejection is really focus on what you can learn from that experience. And then try again. Whatever it is, a rejection isn't the end of a path. There's always going to be another opportunity down the road. So just prepare, use what you've learned from the experience so far. If you've been able to get feedback, use that. If you've not been able to get feedback, then just think about what you've done on your side and if there was anything that you could have done differently, and just use that for the next one.
Managing pressure at work.
So the first one is being aware of where the pressure is coming from. And is it an organizational pressure or is it an individual pressure? If it's an organizational pressure, I would say seek solace in your teammates and cooperate and work together. It doesn't mean like sit in a corner and like moan about it. It means like really understand what the situation is and trying to see if you can sort of like make each other's lives easier. If it's an individual pressure, it's about figuring out what your KPIs are, what exactly are you being evaluated on, what is the thing that you need to be doing. And I think the first strategy is easy and to just like do stuff. But most often there's a difference between like being busy and being like effective. And is the action that you're taking going to be the one that actually helps you achieve that goal? Or are you just doing something to look busy? Right. So for example, if you can let's say that your goal is to get stronger at the gym, right? You can be busy and you can watch hundreds of YouTube videos and you can read like loads of articles, you can read books about working out. You can like finish your plan as much as you want. But the effective action is actually going to the gym. And so taking that analogy into the workplace, you know, are the actions that you're doing actually going to help you achieve the goal, or are they just things that, yes, they're related to your work, but they're not actually moving the needle in any way?
Who lacks self-confidence.
I mean, self-confidence is always about like understanding what you're good at. So having a sense of like what you can bring to a situation. Um, and I think no matter who you are, there's always something, right? So if you have loads of strengths and loads of skills, it's quite easy to do it. The second one is to be aware of the situation that you're in. Because I think when it comes to self-confidence, it affects people in certain scenarios more than others, right? So, for example, you're not going to be sitting at home alone feeling like you lack self-confidence. It's often a result of interactions with other people. So find people that can elevate you and make you feel good about yourself. And then use what you hear from them, like why they enjoy spending time with you. Use that as fuel, basically, to like enjoy yourself. Whenever you're feeling unconfident in a situation, be like, look, my best friend, he thinks I'm funny, he laughs at my jokes. I'm a funny guy, I'm good. And then third step, so yeah, one is basically understand your strengths. Two is find people that elevate you. And three, you're on a journey and you're always life is a process, right? So normally if you can kind of compartmentalize out my ability, in writing or in presenting or in doing this sport, then it's practice. So identify what it is that you're not feeling confident about, and then take an action to develop it and improve on that.
The fear of judgment.
I think the first one is to differentiate between self-judgment and judgment from other people, because I think quite often most people, when they're scared of judgment, they're actually scared not so much of what people think of them, it's what they think other people are going to think of them. And it's understanding that difference. The second one is kind of not caring what other people think of you, even if they do share that opinion with you, is having that confidence in yourself to sort of say, look, if you are on the right path and you're doing everything in your power to be a good person, then, you know, let that judgment kind of slide off your back. Um, and the fear of judgment, the third one, I mean, I don't think I can get a third one out of this. I just feel like one is like, don't judge yourself. Two, if someone else is judging you, then let it slide off your back. And three is if someone does judge you, then just, maybe have an open mind and see if there is anything that can be constructive in that criticism. Um, because also, I mean, the fear of judgment is assuming that the judgment's going to be negative. So maybe another tip would be to actually be open to the idea that judgment will be positive.
Dealing with comparison to others.
Most of the time, it's coming from you. It's coming from like the self. You're comparing your life to another person's life. Um, and the easiest thing to do there is one, if it's a jealousy thing, turn it from jealousy to appreciation and just be like, okay, that person's doing whatever it is really well, and I have to congratulate the person, and hopefully I can emulate them in some way or form. Um, the second one is, you know, if you're happy with how with what you've achieved, but that happiness is kind of like overshadowed by comparing it to someone else, then just don't. So, for example, in my life, I have just recently just done 100 kilo deadlift, and I'm really happy with that. But I think the average for a man of my height and size, for like an intermediate gym goer, is like 140 kilograms. I'm still like 40 kilograms below where the average should be. So if I compare my achievement to that, I can't feel proud about that. But if I look at where I came from and I was struggling, you know, a few years back when I couldn't even lift like 30 or 40 kilograms and now I'm doing 100, if I can compare myself to myself from the past, that's really where the value is. So comparison to others really should be about comparison with your past self.
Fear of being in a new environment with new people.
The first one, and this is like a tip that I always um I heard it, I can't remember where I heard it, but it stuck with me for many years. And it's the idea that when I go into a room, I'm not worried about if people are going to like me. I'm worried about if I'm going to like them. Um, and that's really just kind of like it takes the onus away from like me caring about how I'm going to come across to just kind of seeing like who's on my vibe. Um, and you don't have to be friends with everyone. You're not going to click with everyone. It's about finding a few people that you do have that connection with, and then honing in on those people and connecting with them, and then making sure to make it sustainable and to kind of like take it away from that first meeting. So the second one would be to be excited that you're going to have these opportunities. Like I love networking because I always think they're rather than just going in like meeting really like people really quickly and exchanging like contact details. I like having conversations with like one or two people that I like and I have a good vibe with, and then just being excited that every time I go to a new place, there might be a new friend that I can make. Um, when you're going to a new place, understand why you're going. Like, what's the objective? So again, it's I guess it kind of relates to a lot of the answers I've said before. What's the purpose behind it? What's the objective behind it? And if you're clear on your objective, then you'll be able to sort of manage the situation. So, for example, if you're going to a networking event and the objective is to find like client leads, that needs to be how that will dictate how you judge it, how you portray yourself and how you talk to people. If your objective is to make friends, again, that will change the way that you talk to people. So yeah, just be really clear on why you're going to an event. If the objective isn't clear and you're feeling really stressed about going, then there's no harm in not going.